Artur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith. 12 rounds in the 175-pound division for Artur Beterbiev's belts. All three of those belts, the WBO, the IBF, the WBC. So let's get into it. Let's start with the champ, Beterbiev. 19 wins, no losses, 19 wins by way of knockout. Those 19 wins by way of knockout always sticks out, doesn't it? Beterbiev, we know, is a big puncher. Pound for pound, he might hit the hardest out of anybody in boxing right now. His shots are punishing. They are accurate, put forth with bad intentions. Whenever he does let them go, you just have this inkling that, man, that could be the shot that takes out his opponents. But as I've said before, Beterbiev isn't just the guy who can punch. He's got a good jab as well. He uses his feet very well. And he can box, man. I think he's very underrated in that sense. The man can box very well if he needs to. Beterbiev isn't the fastest starter. It usually takes him a few rounds to kind of get going. And sometimes he needs a little bit of adversity to kind of wake up and get himself locked into the fight. The most recent memory that came to mind is when he fought Marcus Brown a few years ago, a guy who moves very well in the ring and he can box, right? It took Beterbiev a few rounds to kind of figure out the movement and the style of Brown, and it often looked like he wasn't really touching Brown too cleanly. But even the shots that weren't landing cleanly, anytime that it grazed any part of Marcus Brown, it was doing damage, right? It was breaking him down just a little bit, even if it wasn't a clean landing shot. Beterbiev has that type of power, that the ricochet of everything that he does, man, it just makes you feel away. As the fight went on, the head clash, I think in the fourth round, you got the sense that it was a little bit, you were weary of what could happen because Beterbiev started slow that fight and Brown was the busier fighter in the early part of the fight. So he was up on the cards, and you never know how judges are going to handle certain situations. They may say, you know what? It's too bad. And it was a bad head clash, man. It was right in the middle of his head, blood gushing down. It was red all over it. So you weren't sure what it was going to look like because the ref could have stopped the fight. Brown was cut too, but he didn't respond the same way. Beterbiev woke up. He got more locked in, got more dialed in, and really started to bring the pressure and really started to make his presence inside of the ring felt. Eventually, Brown got caught with some shots and got clipped with some shots, body shots, head shots. He got caught on the ropes, and that's perfect for what Artur Beterbiev likes to do, man. When you're on the ropes and you're stationary, he is going to target every open part of you, and he is going to put it with force. When you're heavy-handed, you just got to throw that punch, and they're going to feel it. And he caught him with a left hook and an uppercut mixed with a body shot in the 9th round, and it was over with, right? When he got knocked down, he looked over to his corner like, yo, like, what's going on? Beterbiev responded accordingly to the head clash. He knew he had to turn it up. He knew he couldn't keep up the same pace. He knew at any moment the fight could be stopped. It woke him up. Sometimes adversity with Beterbiev, it makes him fight better. Against Joe Smith Jr., he was forced to pick up the pace because Joe Smith started aggressively and started throwing big punches towards Beterbiev. And so he was forced to be active and to wake up, because if he didn't wake up, he was going to get hit with a shot that could drop him. We know Artur Beterbiev, his defense is good, but he's been dropped before a couple times, right? But that fight, you got to see the counter-punching ability mixed with the power and the accuracy. You saw him strategically start breaking down Joe Smith, using his aggression against him. And once Smith started to just stand there and slow down a little bit, Beterbiev it just became a sitting duck for him, right? Because Beterbiev didn't have to go searching to find him. He was just right there. And once he got knocked down the first time, you know it was only a matter of time before it happened again in the second round, and happened again in the second round. And then on that third time, man, legs were just too wobbly. It was just taking too much punishment. It looked like he had a little bit of a concussion. Like, it would, like, when he hits you, man, and his sparring partners have said this before, Beterbiev, the man is punishing with the shots, like destructive, like it's vicious. Destructive is probably the better word. So it's not just what we're seeing inside the ring and what we're seeing, but his training partners and people that he sparred with have said, yo, this guy is the hardest puncher that I've ever seen, ever been sparring with. Right. So it goes to show, though, at the same time that he can start out quicker if he chooses to. In his most recent fight, he fought Anthony Yarde. Shout out to Anthony Yarde, man, because I thought even in defeat, he showed a lot of heart, a lot of strength and determination, and landed some good shots on Beterbiev. And I thought held his own for as long as he could. Early on, Yarde was keeping a bit of a distance, right? Countering well, landing some nice uppercut, straight hand that was catching Beterbiev. Beterbiev, again, like I said, his defense is pretty good, right? But it's not the greatest. Like, he is there to get hit. He does get hit. But in the third round, man, Beterbiev caught Yarde with a looping left hook from an angle that I didn't think that he had the athleticism to be able to do. It was kind of like a lunging left hook that wrapped around Yarde's guard, and he was able to catch him. I said, okay, 38-year-old Beterbiev, a little athleticism towards the mix, right? In the fourth round, Yarde landed a clean shot that backed up Beterbiev, right, against the ropes. And he landed a similar shot in the fifth round. And he was just like, man, can Yarde keep this up for 12 rounds? Because he's hitting Beterbiev pretty good. But once Yarde started to get a little bit more tired, man, Beterbiev through each round was leading, hitting shots to the body, punishing shots to the body. And you could see that it was making Yarde think about how he was going to come in. And Yarde's a big target. His defense isn't the greatest either, right? And he was getting pushed back anytime that he was slowing down a little bit. Beterbiev would pick it up and really start to land shots. And eventually, Beterbiev just breaks you down round to round. He can stop you in one round. And there was some shots that Anthony Yarde took in this fight that I was surprised that he took it cleanly and didn't drop. But they were adding up. And you could see it. Beterbiev caught Yarde with a shot in the eighth round that wobbled him, left him on the ropes. Beterbiev landed another body shot. Yarde went down. Yarde went to the ropes, looked at his corner, looked at the referee. And I don't know if he was extremely like exhausted, or he was confused, or he was just like, whoa, like, man, I'm starting to feel these punches a lot more. Like, when people say he's a hard hitter, like they weren't just saying that. Like, this man can really punch. And Anthony Yarde is a guy that can punch. But you got the sense that, man, once he got knocked down the first time, it was only a matter of time before it happened again. And he eventually closed out the show. But it was a great back and forth fight, man. It was an exciting fight. Beterbiev's last performance, I thought he did look pretty good, man. I liked how he was able to maneuver about it, right? But there were a lot of people who didn't really like that performance, but I thought it was pretty good. He took some punches, showed that punch resistance, that he can take a punch because Yarde is a big puncher, and he's a big puncher as well too, right? And he fought a great version of Anthony Yarde, a guy who showed a lot of heart and determination that a lot of people didn't think that he had at this stage in his career, right? So I thought it was a very good performance against a quality opponent. But it just goes to show like how good Beterbiev is, man. And we know what he can do. We know the power, but the full package that he has, he's tough to beat. He is 38 now. He is coming off an injury, so it'll be interesting to see if that has any impact on him moving forward. We already know he's a slow starter, but will that make him even slower of a starter? We'll see. Let's talk about his opponent, Callum Smith. 29 wins, 1 loss, 21 wins by way of knockout. This is his second fight at 175 pounds. Smith is a guy who's never been stopped before. He was on a good, solid run for a few years, man, especially when he was at 168, when he became a champion. I mean, he beat Rocky Fielding, George Groves, John Ryder, before stepping into the ring with Canelo Alvarez, which he'll go on to lose his title, which we'll get into that very shortly. When he fought George Groves, man, he had this hungry look about him, that hungry energy about him, right? You could see he was trying to make a statement in their fight. I think Smith is a solid boxer. He's tall, he's rangy, nice amount of power, efficient with his work, likes to fight on the outside / that like mid-distance type of range because of his reach, right? Like he can push that jab out to you and not be too worried about getting caught, because his opponents, usually the shorter guys, they have to work hard to get in close to him, and he can just boom, push him at bay and keep him apart, follow through with the right or the left hand. And I thought he did a great job of that against George Groves, right? Groves did a good job of hitting what was in front of him, hitting what he could find. Being the shorter guy, man, just hit the moving target. So he would hit the shoulders, hit the head, hit the forearms, like whatever he could hit. That's what he was trying to do to kind of slow Callum Smith down. But when they fought, man, Smith caught Groves in the 7th round with a counter left hand that landed cleanly and wobbled him, pushed him back against the ropes. And from there, Smith was able to take advantage of that with an onslaught of shots that Groves wasn't able to take. But it was a shot that Smith saw 30 seconds before, because Groves tried to hit him with an overhand right and it had success and landed the first time. But then when he tried to do it again, Smith saw it and he readied his counter and prepared himself for what was next. It was a smart, subtle, but quick adjustment that he made that made all of the difference, man. I think Callum Smith is a thinker inside the ring. Like, he can make adjustments. When he fought John Ryder, that was a very interesting fight because Ryder and his team, you could tell, were very well prepared. They watched a lot of film. They had some great sparring, had great training. Ryder's defense was very good that night as well, too, man. He was moving his head, closing the gap, and smothering some of Smith's work so he couldn't get in his comfort zone. Ryder took the fight to him in many different ways, man. He made it very tough for Callum Smith that night. And after that fight, even though Ryder lost the fight, I left thinking, man, John Ryder is much better than people think. Like, that was a spectacular performance, man. Smith's best bet was to keep things at a range, but Ryder didn't let him do that. He fought a great fight and neutralized some of Smith's strengths consistently throughout the fight. Callum Smith, he had some great moments, though, man. Landed some nice straight hands, some good body work, combinations when he could. But for the most part, man, it was a performance, like, it was a solid performance, but it wasn't a great performance. And some people thought that was a controversial win for Callum Smith. They thought John Ryder actually won that fight. There's an argument to be made there if you go back and watch the tape. But nonetheless, he came out and he got the win and he kept his belt. After that, he stepped into the ring to fight Canelo Alvarez. That was a much different Callum Smith than I was expecting. Smith was never want to be too overcritical, man. We're just talking, right? Man, Smith was a punching bag for 12 rounds to me, in my opinion, in that fight. I didn't know what was going on with Smith because I was expecting a much different version. It looked like he was intimidated. It looked like he didn't really want to take risks. He was on his back foot most of the fight. He was shaking out his hands in between different rounds during the fight. And apart from a few straight hands, couple body shots, couple flurries of shots, combinations here and there, it was Canelo who was completely pushing him back, man. It's like Smith forgot that, yo, I'm the bigger man here. I need to be the bigger man and to remember that I'm the bigger man. But you couldn't tell that from the fight because Canelo was the one that showed him no respect. Not 1% of respect was shown by Canelo. He just got punched on every single round. Literally everywhere. Shots to the arms, shots to the body, shots to the head, shots to the forearm. Canelo just hit everything that was open. The best round for Callum Smith was probably that 8th or 9th round. And it was a fight that he had a great moment for like a 30, 45 seconds. And then it was a moment where Canelo just took it right back and pushed him back and continued the onslaught of shots for the rest of the round. He took a beating for 12 rounds. He finished on his feet, yes, but he got punched up all night, every single round. And he suffered his first loss. But since moving up to 175 pounds, man, I mean, he's been knocking cats out, man. He stopped his last 2 opponents. He stopped Lenin Castillo in 2 rounds. Then in his most recent fight, he fought Matthew Bonderleek. Bonderleek. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And, you know, he's a southpaw who can box. He's a 2016 Olympian. I tried to go watch a lot of boxing when I was there in 2016, but man, in Brazil, like everything was so far out and spread out. But he's a good fighter, good quality fighter, a guy who has good skills. And I thought Callum Smith looked very good in that fight, man. Kind of looked like a more refined version of his old self, right? The defense looked good. He looked more strategic, not as much wasted motion. Accurate. He was more intentional about what he was doing. He was patient, but not too patient where he was a sitting duck, man. I thought Bonderleek was doing pretty good work in the early part, showing good power. He looked confident. You know, he was swagging with a little bit, you know, putting his hands down, just moving a little bit with confidence. But every time he did get touched to the body, he felt that. Like he slowed up immediately. But in the fourth round, man, Bonderleek had Callum on the ropes. He threw a left hand. Callum slipped it. Callum threw over a left hand, countered him, hit him like right at the top of the head, and dropped him. Got right back up quick, though. Bonderleek got right back up. But after that, Smith turned up the aggression, pushed him up on the ropes, had him sitting on the ropes, and landed a beautifully timed left hook that knocked him down and closed out the show. It was a great win, and it's always great when you can win by way of stoppage, knockout. Anytime that you can make a statement, always good to see. So Smith definitely has a shot, but can he do what no man has been able to do yet against Artur Beterbiev, and that's defeat him, that's beat him up? We'll see. So who wins? Quite frankly, I'm not sure what the game plan is here for Smith. I'm not sure how he's going to handle this one. Obviously, him and his team know they have a great game plan, I'm sure, because you can't sit back and wait for Beterbiev to heat up and to come to you. Because once he gets locked in and he's coming forward, man, he's tough to beat. You know, maybe at 175, Callum Smith, you know, he has the power to back Beterbiev up. Beterbiev has been dropped by guys who aren't as big of a puncher as Smith is. But I don't think Callum Smith is a bigger puncher than Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde wasn't having the easiest time backing him up. So if he can get the respect of Artur Beterbiev, what's that going to be like? Beterbiev is a slow starter, yes, and he is coming off injury and inactivity. So will he be cautious? Will it take him some rounds to get going? Probably. There's a good chance. Maybe. We'll see. But I can just see more ways that Beterbiev can win this fight than Callum Smith can win this fight. Sure, Callum Smith can, you know, try to keep the distance and try to box his way to a victory. But at some point, you're going to have to engage. At some point, you're going to have to stand your ground. At some point, you're going to have to stand toes with this person. And what's that going to be like? We've seen what happens when people stand in front of Artur Beterbiev. It usually does not work out in their favor. It could be different, but from the history, it has not worked out in anyone's favor that this man has faced when they've stood right there in front of him. Ryder, who isn't as skilled as Canelo, gave Callum Smith tough work. Canelo punched him up for 12 rounds and gave him a knot on his bicep. Beterbiev is a bigger puncher than Canelo and a natural 175-pounder, and Smith just got there 2 fights ago. I like Artur Beterbiev by late stoppage. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate each of you. I don't always get to do all the suggested videos you guys suggest in the comment section below, but if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top, and I will do my best to get those done for you. Or if you'd like to become a member, just to show love and to support the channel, that would be greatly appreciated as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.